Hi everyone, welcome back. In today's English vocabulary lesson, we are going to take a look at the jobs that people do. What do you do? Let's get started. You've probably noticed that we're going to break this into a series of lessons. Rather than try and do all 100 in one long lesson, we're going to break it up so that you only have to learn 20 at a time. I think you'll find that's a lot easier. But there are so many different types of jobs that people do that you need to learn the name of in English that even 100 doesn't cover everything. So we'll probably in the future add some more even. But we want to break it up, make it manageable, and so we'll just learn 20 at a time. Now, before we begin today's lesson on our first 20, I want to give you a YouTube tip. And we might do this from time to time. People write in to TK and I and ask us all sorts of questions about our channel and YouTube and how to navigate and how to find lessons. And so every once in a while, I'm going to throw out a YouTube tip, and I hope that you find it helpful. Today's tip is all about subtitles, or as it's called in the industry, closed captioning. They're very similar. There's a little bit of difference. We won't get into that. But people will write in and tell us, can you please put some subtitles up on your screen to help me make sure that I am following what you're saying? Well, that is a very time-consuming process. Both TK and I have other jobs that we have to do. This is not our full-time work. And so it would mean that we would have to reduce the amount of lessons that we're able to release by a lot. And so we're recommending that people just use the automatically generated closed captioning that YouTube does. YouTube has this amazing computer that listens to my words and automatically puts them into text. So, because it's a computer doing it, it's not always 100% accurate, and it doesn't have punctuation. The words kind of run together a little bit. But it's better than nothing, right? If you want to see the words that I'm saying at the bottom of the screen, you can turn on closed captioning. Here's how you do it. Either on your phone or on your computer, your laptop. If you touch the screen or point to the screen, you'll see that at the bottom of the screen, or maybe at the top if it's on your phone, you'll see some menu options showing up. And one of them will say CC. And if you just tap on that, or take your mouse and click on that CC, that will turn closed captioning on. And you'll see the words that I'm saying show up at the bottom of the screen. And if you are now, after this lesson, watching other lessons, and you don't want it on, you have to go and tap it again. But I hope that you'll find that helpful when you're learning English, to be able to have that text show up at the bottom of the screen. All right, that's your YouTube tip for today. I hope that you find it helpful, not only for our channel, but maybe other channels that you're watching. Okay, let's get into today's lesson. Let's learn our first 20 occupations or jobs that people do. Occupation. That's a big word, isn't it? But I want to make sure that you learn this word, and so we're going to include it in today's vocabulary list. It is one of the ways that people ask, what type of work do you do? Let's go through maybe all of the different types of ways that people might ask this question to start out our lesson today. They might ask, simply, as the title of our lesson today, what do you do? What do you do? Or they might ask, what type of work do you do? That's a little more specific, isn't it? What do you do could be talking about other things that you like to do after work, right? So to be a little more precise, it's better to say, what type of work do you do? Rather than just say, what do you do? Another way that you can ask this question is, what type of job do you do? What type of job do you do? Or simply, what is your job? What is your job? But the more technical way to ask this question is, what is your occupation? What is your occupation? And this is how it will almost always be listed on a form that you might have to fill out to tell someone about your life. And so they might ask your birth date and your address and your phone number. And one of the boxes might say simply occupation. Occupation. And that's where you fill in the type of work that you do. And so those are the ways that you can ask the question. What do you do? What type of work do you do? What type of job do you have? Or what type of job do you do? And what is your occupation? What is your occupation? And now that you know how to ask the question, let's take a look at some of the different types of work that people do. The first one is teacher. And by the way, what we'll do is we'll do the vocabulary drills first. So what I'll do is we'll put the photograph up on the screen. I'll say the word. I'll leave a space so that you can practice saying after me, and then I'll say it one more time before we go on to the next one. After we have gone through the vocabulary drills, we'll come back and go through them one more time and talk about each one and try and put our new vocabulary into some sentences. All right, let's get started. Teacher. Teacher. Carpenter. Carpenter. And if you're new here at Study English with Frank, you'll notice that we are colorizing the syllable that needs to be emphasized to help you know how to pronounce it. If you don't see any color for a word, then you know it's just a one-syllable word, and there's no part that should be emphasized. The whole thing is emphasized when it's just one syllable. All right, so carpenter. Carpenter. Bookkeeper. Bookkeeper. Cook. Cook. Dentist. Dentist. Doctor. Doctor. Accountant. Accountant. Lawyer. Lawyer. Policeman. Policeman. Fireman. Fireman. social worker, social worker, government worker, government worker, fisherman, fisherman, hairstylist, hairstylist, journalist, journalist, photographer, photographer, mechanic, mechanic, receptionist, receptionist, plumber, plumber, electrician, electrician. All right, that's our vocabulary drill. Now let's take a look at them again and try and put them into sentences. Sentences that you might use when you are practicing your English with an English speaker. And so when you're talking to somebody for that first time, you might very well ask them, "What do you do? What kind of job do you do? What kind of work do you do?" And then the person that you're talking to will probably respond with something like, "Oh, I am a..." And then they'll tell you the name of the type of work they do. For example, our first occupation on our list, probably the most popular occupation, the one that we have the fondest memories of, our teacher. So they would say, "Oh, I am a teacher." And when someone says something like that about the work that they do, it's nice to be able to follow up with something like, "Oh, that's nice. What grades do you teach?" And then that gives them an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about the work that they do. And they might say, "Yes, I teach grades 1 and 2. I really love my work." "What type of work do you do?" "I am a carpenter." "Oh, a carpenter. What types of carpentry work do you do?" "What type of carpentry work do you do?" "What do you do?" "I am a bookkeeper." "Oh, that sounds interesting," you might say. What type of office do you work at?" To keep their books. People will want to tell you about the type of organization they work for where they keep the books. So you'll ask them about their job and where they work. "What type of work do you do?" "I am a cook." "Oh, you are a cook. How nice. You must know how to make a lot of good recipes." "Oh, you are a cook. How nice. What is the name of the restaurant where you work? I might like to come and try out some of your dishes." "Where do you work?" And so they might tell you the name. "What type of work do you do?" I am a dentist. Oh, you are a dentist. How interesting. How do you enjoy that work, you might ask? It'll be interesting to hear what they have to say about how they enjoy doing that type of work. What do you do? I am a doctor. Oh, you are a doctor. How wonderful. You must really enjoy doing that kind of work. Do you work at a local hospital? What do you do? I am an accountant. Oh, you are an accountant. That sounds interesting. Do you enjoy your work? What type of accounting firm do you work at? What do you do? I am a lawyer. Oh, you are a lawyer. You must have some very interesting days as you work as a lawyer. What type of law do you do? Because there's many different types of law. There can be criminal law, there can be family law, there can be estate law, so many different types of law that people can become involved in. So if someone tells you that they are a lawyer, you might want to ask them, oh, what type of law do you do? Policeman. What do you do? I am a policeman. Oh, you are a policeman. How interesting. How long have you been working as a policeman now? What type of police work do you specialize in? And they might tell you, oh, I work as a detective down at our police station. And if they tell you that they are a detective, well, there's all sorts of follow-up questions that you could ask about that. Oh, you are a detective. How interesting. What kinds of cases are you working on right now? Or what kind of cases do you usually investigate? I am a fireman. A fireman. Oh, you are a fireman. Oh, how wonderful. What do you do? I am a social worker. Oh, a social worker. That sounds interesting. Tell me more about your work. That's a good follow-up question. Tell me more about the work that you do. And that gives your new friend a chance to talk about their work. You know, people's jobs, the work that they do, is one of the best ways to break the ice when you're meeting someone for the first time. It's something that's very easy to talk about. Because they do it every day, it's easy for them to talk about what they're doing all the time. So if you're struggling to know what to say to a new person when you meet them, remember, what type of work do you do is always a good question to ask. And then when they tell you what they do, oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more about that. Government worker. Government worker. I work for the government, people might say. What do you do? I work for the government. I'm a government worker. And there's many different types of jobs with the government. And so you might want to follow it up with, oh, you are a government worker. What types of work do you do for the government? And so that gives them an opportunity to talk about the work that they do. A government worker. What type of work do you do? I'm a fisherman. Oh, a fisherman. That's very interesting. What type of fishing do you do? Because there are many different types of fishing. The one that we have as our example is just one man in a boat with a big net, and he's a fisherman. But there's also fishermen that work on a big boat. They might own the boat, or they might just work on the boat, but both are fishermen. And so go ahead and ask them, what type of fishermen are they? Some just fish for one thing. I'm a salmon fisher. I'm a deep sea fisherman. I fish for lobsters. So many different types of fishing that people can do. So go ahead and ask them, what type of fisherman are you? Hairstylist. What do you do? A hairstylist. Someone might say, I am a hairstylist. Or another term might be a hairdresser. A hairdresser. And you, I'm sure, know this type of work. You've probably used the services of a hairstylist many times. And you might ask them as a follow-up question, oh, do you work in a hair salon near here? I might like to come and use your services one day. Or you might say, oh, do you own your own shop? Do you own your own shop? That's always a nice question to ask. What type of work do you do? I am a journalist. A journalist. Oh, that's very interesting. Do you work at a newspaper? You might ask. Do you work for a TV station? Do you work for a magazine? And those were the types of follow-up questions that you can ask to help them open up and tell you a little bit more about the work that they do as a journalist. What type of work do you do? I am a photographer. And by the way, for those of you who may not know, that is actually what I do primarily. I am a photographer, as well as a video producer. I do both. The company, the organization that I work for, sends me all over the world to shoot video and still photography. If someone asks me, oh, what do you do? I might tell them, oh, I'm a photographer. I might tell them I'm an English teacher as well. But primarily I am a photographer, or I'm a video guy, I might say. What type of work do you do? Oh, I'm a mechanic. Oh, you're a mechanic. You know, I have a car that has some real problems. Could I come and see you sometime? You might say. What do you do? I am a receptionist. Oh, you are a receptionist. Where do you work? And a receptionist is usually someone who is at the front desk at an office. Maybe it's a doctor's office, a dentist's office, or some other type of service like that. There's always usually someone at the front desk, and their job is to greet people when they come in and maybe answer the phone when it rings and just help people as they come into the shop or office. Receptionist. What type of work do you do? Oh, I am a plumber. Oh, a plumber. You know, we had a pipe burst at our house recently, and I really appreciated the work that our plumber did for us when he fixed our leak. So I really am thankful for the work that you do. You could tell them maybe a little story about how a plumber saved you and how much you appreciate them and the work that they do. What type of work do you do? I am an electrician. Oh, you are an electrician. Do you work on new houses, helping to run the wires and install the breakers like we have in our photograph here? And then they will be able to say no or tell you what type of an electrician that they do. There's so many different jobs that an electrician can do. And so that gives them the opportunity to tell you about the work that they do. Well, there you have it, the first 20 in our series on people's jobs, people's occupations, the work that people do. If you enjoyed this lesson and you'd like to learn more occupations, I want to invite you to come over to my channel, Study English with Frank. You can find the links in the description just below this video. If you scroll down or mouse up with your finger, you'll see a description of this video, and there'll be 4 links there for the 4 remaining videos in this series on occupations. Altogether, we're learning over 100 occupations, the jobs that people do. And then we're going to have one extra video on occupations that just goes through the vocabulary drills. All 110 or so will be there in a loop so that you can listen while you sleep and learn while you sleep all of the occupations that people do. So check it out, the description below, or just Google Study English with Frank. Come on over, see the other 4 videos in this series, and while you're there, if you haven't already done so, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and join our growing family of students over at Study English with Frank. See you over there. Bye-bye for now.